All right, happy Wednesday, happy hump day for everyone out there. And for those of you who are joining us live, and for those of you who are watching the replay today. So really quickly, a recap of where we've been over the last week. I know seems like it has been a long time, but just really quickly where we're at and where we're going today. So last Saturday, we did our December Surge Boot Camp. As of today, we have over 700 people registered to get our free buyers list. We've got more than 300 people watching the replays with over 8 hours of training. Now, what's different about today is this is what we gave away for free. Number one, we gave away 2 buyers lists for primes, tier 1 and tier 2 contractors. Number 3, we gave away our free tribal list for subcontract opportunities. Number 4, December spend forecast. Number 5, December hit list. 2026 recompete list. And then number 7, the free bonus AI templates. All right. So today we're going to talk about 2 things, the prime contractor list, and we're going to talk about the tier 2 subcontractor list. Right. And by the way, for all the people who are in the boot camp, you're going to love today because you're going to see essentially behind the curtain of how I created these lists, right? And what I did to get here, because I've already read comments from people that said, well, Eric, someone gave me a list like this before, right? I promise you, no one's ever given you a list like this. So I'm going to show you how I spent the 20 hours building these models, where they came from, exactly how to use them, and how to land meetings. So what we know to be true, first and foremost, hey, welcome, by the way, everyone in there. Go ahead and drop your names in the chat. So what we know to be true, right, that only 5% of opportunities are on SAM.gov, which, like a lot of you guys out here, this is where I started my journey. However, where I made my money was in these 2 buckets right here, sole source and task order contracts. And we'll talk about all that today. Plus, by the way, if you stay till the end, I'm going to be taking your NAICS code, which you could be free. If you're on this live, drop your NAICS code in the chat. I'm going to be running your NAICS code against our database to see how many subcontract opportunities exist for your company. So I will be doing that at the end of the presentation. So going back, 5% opportunities are in SAM.gov, 50% of them are on task order contracts, and then another 25% sole source, which is where I made my money. So again, going back, these are the 7 things that we gave away. You could still get it by registering today. And don't worry, if you register, like I see someone said, I registered, I didn't get the email yet. First, always check your spam or junk mail, because again, because it is over 700 people, right? Sometimes it ends up in your spam folder. Sometimes it ends up in your junk mail folder. So check that first and foremost. And then again, don't worry, I keep having my team making sure that they're sending out the emails for the new people that were added recently. So don't worry if you haven't received it. We'll make sure that everyone gets it before the 18th. All right. Now, let's talk about the first list here, the prime contractor small business liaison list. Okay, this list of 225 companies, 93 emails, 161 with phone numbers. And then the tier 2 list, 168 companies, 59 of them. Tavin, you're going to appreciate this today with phone numbers as well. So now, my data sources. Where did I get this data from? Eric, how did you come up with this information? So these are the former primary sources that I pulled the data from, right? Number 1, I went to the SBA's website and I grabbed the directory of federal government prime contractors that all had subcontracting plans. Why does this make this different from any other list that people have given you? Because this is the most recent information that is on the website. So as you know, like again, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we didn't even have AI or ChatGPT. So if somebody's giving you anything that is from outside of that window, then that data is outdated. So again, we pulled the most recent list. Secondly, we went to the Office of Small Business, Department of War program, and we pulled their list of companies from that portal. I then went to the Department of Transportation subcontracting directory. I pulled that list from their portal. And then I went to finally Homeland Security prime contractors list, and then I extracted that information from that portal. So those are the 4 portals that I literally pulled from to get this information. By the way, at the bottom, you'll see our email address. So if you have any questions about anything, email start@hellogovcon.edu. I put it on all the slides just so people wouldn't ask me anymore. So there is where we can get your assistance from us. Now, this is the fascinating part. Well, fascinating to me. This is my particular system that I work with to extrapolate this information. And I'm going to show you guys what I did and how I did it. But this is what my screen looks like when I was able to have this research done and pull this information in. And I'm actually using a tool called Cursor. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard. It's called Cursor, C-U-R-S-O-R. I'm using a Cursor tool with Claude Code and some other LLMs to essentially help me go to the websites, grab the information, scrape the data, check it against active contracts, check it against the National Defense Authorization Act, and then tell me who has active contracts, who has budgets, who have subcontracting plans, so that we're not just pulling information for companies that are not active, that don't have contracts, that don't have business, and don't have work. So we took all the companies, ran them across. When I say we, me, I took all the companies, ran it across a contract database with what was applied to us in the National Defense Authorization Act. And I cross-referenced that list with these companies to come up with the top companies that I gave you originally on that list. So there's no way that you can tell me that someone else went to that extent to do that type of research in order to get you this information. This is another screenshot from my working database that I'm utilizing behind the scenes to put this information together. And again, even using AI, right? Even using AI to come up with some of these actual handouts took anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, right? Even using AI, because remember, it's scraping all the data, and the one National Defense Authorization Act alone has 3,000 pages. All right. So that's how I came up with the prime contractor list, which is, for those who don't know, this is the big names that you know, the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, the Raytheons, those kind of guys. And then what I did was, on top of that, was I went to another level and I said, oh, okay, I recognize that those big companies are very transactional. They're less likely to give people like me, you, Tavin, Sylvia, right? Annette, Shondella, they're less likely to give us all a chance. So I went a step further and grabbed what we call the Tier 2 directory. And in the Tier 2 directory are people that are more likely to give you a shot at contracting. So let's explain the difference. Tier 1 versus Tier 2. So here, and again, we talked about this in the boot camp. You can still get the replays to the boot camp as of today and tomorrow by visiting our website and putting your name and email address in there. All right. Now, what is the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2? Tier 1, typically the first contract takes you 12 to 18 months. Tier 2, typically the first contract 3 to 6 months. The response from the small business officer is usually 1 to 2 weeks versus 24 to 48 hours. And then the decision cycle to work with small businesses is usually 3 to 6 months. So if you were on my live last night and you met the guy, Jimmy, who says he reaches out to the primes, he's had no luck, it's because he was reaching out to Tier 1 prime contractors. So it's very common, it's very typical that they don't actually show you any love. Now, Tier 2, right, you have a 30 to 45% with win rate success versus Tier 1, 2 to 5% win rate. So again, all the boot camp attendees already had this information because they learned it on Saturday, what I'm teaching you guys today. Competition at the Tier 1 level, there's hundreds of competitors. So yes, that's why you don't get any love versus Tier 2, there's dozens of competitors. So again, lower competition, more opportunities. Success rate of email responsiveness, you've got 60 to 80% versus 10 and 20%. So yes, when you reach out to the big guys, it makes sense why you're gonna 2 out of 100 or 2 out of 50 because they don't care, they don't need you. That's why we talk about Tier 2. Contract size range from 50 to 500K versus 500 to 10 million. Relationships are basically partnerships versus transaction relationships. And then the registration process, typically with the Tier 2 vendors, are about 97% are no portal. You're just talking to the small business person, telling them who you are, what you do, and how you can solve their needs. So again, Tier 2 is better for go-to-market strategies, 3 to 6 months of revenue, learning government contracting, building credibility quickly, accessible relationships, higher win rates. Tier 1 is better for long-term strategy growth. And then contracts over $2 million plus if you want established vendors that have count capacity, scaling, and bigger opportunities as you start to scale. So again, for me, this is what you guys missed out on if you were not part of the boot camp, is the difference between the tier 1 versus the tier 2 list. I'm going to go into this database later today. As we put your NAICS code in here, I'll show you guys kind of what some opportunities are. And then I'm also going to cross-reference the expired contracts list. I'm going to look at the tribal list, and we're going to go over the hit list of opportunities. And so again, for all of you who missed out on the boot camp, if you have any questions about any of the downloads, any of the information, our email is there. But just note that the reason why we're doing this is because 50% of the contracts are already working with prime vendors. So if you do not have a strategy to work with these contractors, you're missing out on up to 75% of the opportunity. So this is why I'm harping on giving you guys this information and being insistent on what to do with the information. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, really quickly, if you have not gotten the list, you can still go register right there at govcongiants.org/bootcamp, where you can get your copy at. Right. So I just kind of want to run through that really quickly to get that out the way. Now, let me show you something that I think is pretty fascinating. I want to take this down. Any questions? Any questions so far? Right. So let me show you guys this, because since you've seen me putting out a lot of content about this information, right? By the way, keep dropping your NAICS codes in the chat. I'm going to go through the searches to see some of the prime vendors, tier 1, tier 2 vendors that I'm going to stay on, because yesterday people kept sending me their NAICS code, say, check my code. And I ran out of time because I had went over. So today I want to spend a little bit more time, run through some of this information, give you guys some of the vendors so you can see it. But again, if you literally just go to our website, you will get the list. All right. So now check this out. I'm going to show you this. By the way, welcome everybody who's showing this. So this is my dashboard that I'm working with to generate the list that I created for you guys. All right. So this is my working dashboard that I'm using to generate the list. So if you could see here, can everybody see my dashboard? All right. Yes. So this is my dashboard that I use, and you can see here, research summary. So Department of Transportation contracted 133 companies, research templates. We extracted 103 contacts from there. We extracted their emails. Now we're looking at the SBA portal with 2,000 companies. We matched with existing 25. We still need to research 975 companies. We matched Booz Allen, SAIC, Lockheed, Raytheon. These were the files they created for me, the SBA match list with companies. Top companies still need to do research: Pantex, Optimum, TriWest, Syria. Contacts collected from Homeland Security, 76 companies with emails. DoD list, 10 companies with 15 contacts. DOT, 133, need research. This is literally the sheet that I work from to build out your database that I'm giving everybody on here for free. This is what I'm working from. This is what the behind the scenes look like. Okay? This is the behind the scenes of what I did to get you the information. Even my own team did not appreciate. They thought that somehow that I just grabbed the PDF document and pulled it together. No, this is what I'm doing to get this information. All right. So this is my workflows. You can see on the left-hand side over here, I'm going to close these folders. I'll show you. If you see this, it's called Boot Camp. If you open it up, these are all the files that I use to create my contractor database. You see the small business liaison list. Okay, so all of the documents that I gave you guys in the boot camp, this is my working file folders that I use to create the list that you have. Okay, I want you to understand the work that went behind this. This is my working folder of documents and files that I use to create the list that you guys have for free. You're welcome, John. All right. So I want you guys to see this because I don't think that what my experience is we've gotten so much piss poor quality information from people that we think that when we get information, it's like, oh, well, this is something I can get anywhere. No, you can't get the information anywhere because unless someone is going to this extent to pull this information and run it across multiple databases and platforms. So I say this because I want you to really appreciate and value, right? And do something with it. So again, when we look at, for example, the December hit list, right? You can see here on the left-hand side, December spend forecast list, Department of Homeland Security list, right? Embedded contacts, okay? Export to PDF. So all of this is essentially my working files, final deliverables, right? So here, it shows you the final deliverables. So this was SBLO Prime Contractor Rolodex deliverables. So it gave me a CSV file. I gave you guys, you see here, the 225 companies with emails and contacts. I sorted it by columns by company, small business liaison, email, phone, contact quality. What I did was, because all of them didn't have the information there, I had to go out to their websites. So if the directory did not have their information, I went out to the websites, scraped their websites to search for the people's names and contacts to add it back into the directory. So where there were gaps in the registered portals, I had my LLMs use Firecrawl Scraper to go back out to the websites to scan to get the information so you guys did not have to do that. I want you to see it. You can see it here. Okay. All right. So features, clean, print friendly layout, color coded contact types, statistics dashboard, alphabetically sorted. All right. Top 100 analysis summary, total coverage, 225 companies, 93. Right. Source data, DHS, SBA, DoD, DOT. All right. So this is what behind the scenes looks like for you guys. And I want you to see that. Okay, because I really want people to really understand the in depth of what we did in order to get to the place where we're at. So when someone, because I know a lot of times they said that, people, they don't appreciate free. I'm hoping that the people here do appreciate it and do value it and understand that there was a lot that went behind this. It wasn't like an afterthought. This was not some random afterthought that I was like, oh, let me just go and pull a free download and then just give it to people and say, hey, here's something for you guys. That's not what I did. Okay. So again, I gave you the research. I told you how I got here, right? And I'm showing you now the database, which again, I have never shown anyone this. What it took. This is literally this is only for boot camp. There's no additional files for me for anything else I'm working on other than boot camp. Like this folder is called boot camp folder. Like that's it. So this is my working documents. There's hundreds of documents here, right? You can see here, tier 2 list summary, tier 2 PDF, tier 2 portal research, right? So you can kind of see we had to run it in batches. So here, batch 2, 9 companies, all 9 valid companies in batch 2 have been researched and updated. Okay, batch 3, 1 company, tier 2 companies versus tier 1 companies, batch 3, 9 remaining companies. It gives you the list. Batch 4, 10 companies, batch 5, 10 companies. Recommended approach for remaining research. Okay, since most tier 2 companies don't have formal portals, the research should focus on website check-ins, SBLO contacts, documentation, marked as directory, exceptions, and then here's the statistics of the different batches. So I wanted to say that because, people be out here challenging me and stuff like, oh, Eric, I got a list like that before. And, only 3 people responded. And I'm like, you couldn't have. Like, that's impossible for you to have gotten something like this before, because in my opinion, up until we had AI, it would be impossible for you to get something like this done, right? So this is not an AI class, so I don't want to harp on it any longer, but I will say this for everybody out here. So if you still haven't got your slides yet, just go to govcontractors.org/bootcamp and you'll get the slides. So what I want to do now is what we didn't do yesterday was I want to go through some of the documents and again, help see if in fact there are, people were asking me last night, hey, can you run my NAICS code to see what prime contractor opportunities are available for me? So I want to spend the rest of the time now doing that for people. And again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, just drop it in the chat. I'll be answering questions. But basically, I want to go through, answer any questions you may have about this. I hope this gave you a much better understanding of the list and how we got to the list, and then also how to utilize the list, right? So I hope this guys gave you a much better understanding of it, and then also much better appreciation for it, so that you're not just wasting the opportunities. Because I find that we tend to sit on a sideline and squander our opportunities because we feel like, it'll be another month or another year, or, we'll wait till Trump's out of office, or whatever the excuse that you give or allow yourself to have. I find that that's oftentimes what people are doing. So maybe you guys didn't know this, but yes, I'm actually an engineer from college. When I was in college, I worked for a company called Nortel Networks. Nortel Networks runs all the phone lines. So before we had cell phones, we had house phones, and all the phone lines in the ground. If you lived in the United States, you probably had one of the Baby Bells, Bell South, Bell North, one of the Baby Bell telephone companies, Southern Bell, right? Anybody had any of those Bell companies? So those companies, the firm that basically gave the phone systems was called Nortel Networks. I used to work at Nortel Networks as an intern, right, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And one of my jobs was to figure out why the networks were crashing in some cities for the phone lines that were basically running across these computer nodes. And I wrote a software code to determine the root cause for why the phone lines would crash in certain cities. So I don't often say this to people because, like, I don't really care a lot. But I mean, I do have that in me, that ability to be able to pull that out. And now with the government contract piece and understanding, right, the information and using like with AI, I'm like, oh, cool. I can write programs to basically extract the information that I need and essentially get this data source available to try to level the playing field for everybody out here. So again, anybody could do it. I'm not saying I'm special. Any one of you guys could have done this, right? That's why you have all the information. So you guys can do this. But for those of us who were like a little bit lazier, and you're like, look, I'd rather just take this information and execute on it. That's what I want for you. All right, cool. So with that said, any questions in the chat? By the way, I just put our number here. So any questions about anything for us, you can call or text us here. The website's there. The email's there. I try to make this dummy proof tonight. If you sign up and you did not get your list, check your spam, check your junk, because it is a lot of people. And sometimes our stuff ends up in one of those folders. So I don't control emails, but you should be immediately getting access to this stuff once you put your email in the system. All right. So now let's have some fun and let's go through. You said, where's the list? It's right here, right there. That's go to our website, govcontractors.com bootcamp, put your name and email in there, and then you'll get the 7 buyers list that we gave out. Plus you'll get copies of our replay for our bootcamp. and you'll get the all of the AI prompts, 75 plus AI prompts that we've given out as a bonus. All right. So let me go. We're going to switch screens here. Let me take this other screen off. And let me go back. And I'm going to start helping people and let me pull up the databases. Okay. Where are they at? Give me a second. All right. Boom. Here. All right. Add this screen. All right. Perfect. All right. Okay. So let me close this. Let me zoom in. All right. Zoom in. All right. All right. So what I have on the screen in front of me is basically the prime contractors list. I've got the tier 2 subcontractor list, expiring contracts list, and then I have my other database, okay, that we're going to be running through. So again, I'm going to do this for about 20 minutes. So if you drop your NAICS code in here, I'll be happy to search it. But again, just mind you, everyone who just registers on the email will get this information for free. You can search it yourself. So I'm just doing this as a courtesy because last night when I went live, there were people that kept asking me to search their NAICS codes. So I'm going to do that for you. All right. So I'm going to do that for you. Also, another thing, make sure that you're not on my website signing up for the newsletter. You have to go to the bootcamp page. Here, I'll pull it. Let me pull it up. So, because I've seen that too, people have gone to the bootcamp pages. So don't do the bootcamp. I mean, don't do the newsletter page. You should be on this page that looks like this. That's why I put that screenshot. So you should be on this page here, right? So make sure you're registering for the boot camp. And why is my buddy John Palmer in here? Okay, what is John? What is John? Look, by the way, you guys, you see, even successful people, right? John Palmer was one of the guys that was on the boot camp. Even he in here put his NAICS code in here. Even successful people still, look, you see, he's not too above himself to come out and reach out and say, look, try put my NAICS code in there. I love it, John, man. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. All right. Jess, again, I can't look into your particular cause right now. You've got our number. You've got our email. Like I said, you know, but the information is there, and it's only been, you know, again, I don't build the systems. So if it doesn't go instantly, that's not my fault. I've had people like, oh, Eric, I didn't get the email. Then 20 minutes later, they get the email. So we got the email. Be patient. I didn't build the systems. I know they work because 650 something other people got it before today. So I know that they're working. But yeah, I love it. My man, John Palmer says, always a student. Okay. So cool. All right, let's go back to the list. John, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do you first, John, because I got some people in here that really, they need, I got some earlier people ask some code. So 541810. All right, let's go in and let's look. 541810. All right, so here you go. I don't know your name. I guess it's Just Do It. So can you see my screen? 541810. On this prime SBO list, there's a company called Advertising Council. John Fish is the small business contact person. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There you go. So here's a prime contractor that has that code. John Fish is a small business liaison officer. All right. That's on that list. Let's go to our tier 2 list. Okay. John Fish is on that list as well. All right. So let's see here. No expiring contracts. Okay. I see a couple 8A. I see there's some 8A firms, tribal firms that have that code. Here, Jonathan Levy of Kai Company. They're a firm that has that code in their list. Let's see. This company, OGBY Hazardous Abatement, they've got that code. Let's see. This company out of San Antonio, Texas, Regina Moore. They've got that code. So I see a lot of tribal companies that you could target. And then let me go. I've got one more source. Hold on one second. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something different. Hold on. I'm going to do something different. Give me a second. All right. I'm going to go straight to the database and I'll pull that up. All right. So here in the database that I built, that basically is a compilation of all of the information. I see 43 results, 33 contacts, $1.4 billion in value. And here are some of the companies: DDB Chicago, Porter Novell Public Services, EGB The Extra, Omnicom, WPP LLC. So there's 43 results with 33 contacts and 33 emails in our database that we built. Can you guys see that? Okay, yeah. All right, so there you go. So in the database, there's 33 companies, $1.4 billion in contract value for that code, 541810. So you've got, I mean, that's a great place to start. And so the idea is, right, is that now you've got a place where you could start, right, actually identifying potential subcontract opportunities for your firm. I don't know why this thing looks really small on my screen. How do I look to you guys? Okay, cool. All right, perfect. All right, what other, let me see. So, all right. Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I'm here to show you guys that there's opportunities, because people don't know this stuff. All right, let me see. What other codes do I have coming up next? 238210. All right, 238210, 267 contacts, 267 emails, $337 million in total value. Some of the companies include MC Dean, WSP USA Solutions, Olson Industrial Electric, Kusa Consulting. I mean, that's a popular code. So you've got plenty of people on that list that you can reach out to for subcontract opportunities, Andrea. Plenty of people. All right. Molstar, you said education and consulting. Again, I'm looking for what is your NAICS code particularly. So you got to tell me your NAICS codes. All right. I'm on Eastern time. You could call or text us. Don't worry, you're not calling and texting me personally, so I won't be offended. You could text anytime, and someone, I'm not saying they will respond, but they'll text you back by tomorrow. They'll get the message. I showed you guys. So Sylvia says, how can we do this research for ourselves? I showed you guys how you could do it for yourself. I would be happy to do a demo on Cursor. I have no problem with that. I'll be happy to show you where I started from the beginning. Okay, 541690. All right, 346 contacts in a database, 346 emails. That's a very popular code with $28 billion in value. You've got everybody from, Deloitte, KPMG on down to this company and Genesis, American Institute for Research. So, I mean, that's a very popular code. John Palmer, 561612. All right, Palmer, 106 contacts under that, your code, Mr. Palmer. All right. You got the Whitestone Group, Inc. Okay. You got ISS Action, Inc., Covenant Aviation Security, FJC Security Services, Interpara Security, ActSafe LLC, Avancia, Actinic Solutions, Akima Global Logistics, Alliance West, Bowhead Mission Solutions, Calderwood, Cape Fox, Cedar International, Chenega, Cherokee, the big boys, right? Chitna, Cox Cattle, Delta Point, Echelon, Ethic X, Flatwater, Glacier Support Services, Gold Belt Security. So you got a lot of people on that list. All right. Yeah, Sylvia. In this database, I combine both tier 1 and tier 2. So Sylvia, what I did was, this is the database of all the companies. So we combined tier 1 and tier 2 in the database. All right. It's sorted by contract size, company info, subcontract plan. So what I did, Sylvia, the reason why I pulled this up was because it was just easier for me to show you guys than going back and forth on the prime and and the tier 1 and tier 2 list. So that's why I pulled up the database instead of going back and forth on the other 2 documents. So that's why I did that, just because it's just an easier search for me right now. All right. Questions, comments? Are all the hearts cleared? Everybody's feeling good? Yeah? All right. All right. You guys are good. So for guys just joining us, this is the 7 list that we gave away. That's our email on the screen. These are the lists that we're talking about. Okay. So these are the things that we're talking about. So even though you're a Federal Help Center member, unless you sign up for the boot camp, you won't get this automatically. So yes, everyone, the only way to get this information is you have to be registered for the boot camp, because we're not sending it to people who don't ask for it, if that makes any sense. So if you're not, I mean, it's free information. So I'm not sending my 20,000 person email list the boot camp information. So I'm only sending to people who ask for it. And the way that you ask for it is you register on the boot camp page to get a copy of the list. Otherwise, we're not just going to spam it to everybody, because everyone doesn't care necessarily. Everyone's in different levels of their journey. So yes, you've got to basically go through the boot camp portal and put your email in there in order to get access to the list. You're welcome. Questions about what we went over tonight? Sylvia wants to learn Cursor. I'll be happy, Sylvia, to teach you how to use Cursor. Yes, the FHC membership is where we do all of our coaching, all of our training. That's where we have our community is an FHC, correct? So yes, that's where we help you secure your first contract, correct? There's several FHC members on the call right now on YouTube that will be happy to share with you any questions you have about FHC. But yeah, that's where all of our trainings are held. That's where we bring on our partners, coaches, consultant, experts. That's where you make your connections, where right now you're not doing this just in a silo. What else? So if you missed today, make sure to please go back because we went over the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 2 list. So if you missed that, I think that's super important because knowing the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 2 list really for all of you small. So like John Palmer, because of his revenue status where he's at, he could be registering on the tier 1 list. But for the rest of us who are not, in that level, we should be starting off with the tier 2 list because it's literally 60 to 80% response rate, 30 to 40% win rate probability versus tier 1 where you're talking about 2 to 5% rate. I'll go back to that slide really quickly, but literally that's the difference. Okay. So, so if you missed that, okay. There you go, Jess. This person says, I received the email. Thank you. So I know the emails are working because we literally, Brandon and I worked on this because sometimes some of the things, the documents were still read access or not accessible. So we cleaned all of that up this morning. And so all of you guys who signed up that maybe one of the links wasn't working or you couldn't get in, we fixed all that stuff today. We've been quality control checking it. But I'm kind of I like to kind of build the plane as I jump out my parachute. So I just want to get the information out there first. And then we start going back and people say, well, I didn't get this. I didn't get this. I didn't see the AI prompts. I didn't see the, so we went back and made sure we put the AI prompts in there. We went back and on the replay videos, we had to essentially put them in a different folder so you guys can watch them. So yeah, sure. You can, you feel free to ask any general question you like. I'm going to be here for another 14 minutes. So I'll take any questions anybody has. All right. Okay, Tavin says, are these tribal firms GC friendly? If onboarding a new 8A GC out of Los Angeles, I remember you working with tribes. So Tavin, actually, yes, I found that a lot of the tribal firms are GC friendly. Okay. For me, remember, my guys out of Rhode Island, we're GCs as well. And what I've done though with the tribes, what I've said is we're boots on the ground. So if you need us, right, we have access. We know the labor force. We know the subcontractor base. We know all of the, we've got all the relationships with all the suppliers and the contractors in the area. So we can get things that you guys can't necessarily get because particularly Chavin, like I know in construction for me, the supply, like the trades contractors, the carpenters, the finishers, these guys are very loyal to the businesses and companies they work with. If you've been in this industry long enough, you've been burned. So they don't like to necessarily work with the new people. And a lot of these tribes understand that and they get it. And so you're like, hey, you're working in Los Angeles. If you guys are not familiar with working in Los Angeles, it can be extremely difficult for you. We're going to make your job a lot easier because we know the local supplier base. We can pull people that you could not pull because we've been working here in Los Angeles for 10, 15, 20 years, right? So that would be my spiel. And literally right now, we worked with Doyon. I don't know if you've heard of Doyon, but you can look them up. And Doyon literally, they've given us very, very large percentages of entire projects to do. And we've been able to help them, save them on a lot of work. A lot of times what I find also, Tavin, with some of these tribes is they will bid a project because they have the size and the scope and the scale, but they'll send like one guy out there to go look at it who will have no experience working in that arena. A friend of mine worked for a company called CCI, which is a Bristol Bay native company. And he said, Eric, they sent me from Florida to Maine. I never been in Maine. I don't know anybody in Maine. And he was like, so I went to Maine and they want me to build up this like supplier base when I don't have any contacts in Maine. So what I've seen, Tavin, is a lot of these tribes, they'll send like a big time project manager, somebody knows how to build stuff. They'll send him to a random city, random state where he doesn't have any connections. And his job is to stand up like a contracting division. So they welcome people like you to come in and help them. Now, you also know, Tavin, I've had situations where I've went in partnership and bid with them. And because some of these guys were lazy, they lost the bid. So I've had my set. They didn't burn me per se, but it stung me because I lost out on a multi-year contract because some employee was lazy and he didn't want to do his job. So, but absolutely, I would definitely encourage you to talk to the tribes. 1,000%. Okay. My man says, I'm ready to get back on a government contract and I purchased the first ever boot camp. Wow. So again, call us, right? Text us, email us, okay? Because I don't know what anybody purchased. I've never been in charge of plans. I had Maria before, then we had Erica, then we had Michelle, now we got Anel. So I don't know the plans. So I have to go back and look at what plan you purchased. But if you did buy, I will say this. If you've ever bought any of our courses, Academy 3.0, anything like that, we do honor people who've bought in the past. The only thing that you may be required to do is because Federal Help Center community is new, you may just have to enroll as a pro member and to have ongoing support, which is my weekly calls, the weekly trainings and things like that. I see now we got 35 people watching. That hopefully you got everyone caught the presentation in the beginning of what we went through, explain that stuff. So Jess' question is, I see someone saying there's no such thing as middleman in the world of contracts, but a lot of people say you can secure a contract and outsource it to another company to fulfill it. So Jess, this is a very good question. Amazing question. So middleman is a derogatory term in government contracting. All right. So I use middleman to communicate with people because that's the language that people use. So middleman is technically, if you are the prime contractor working with the government, then there is no such thing as middleman. Right. And I know people say you can do it. That's the reason why the 8A program is under audit right now. The entire 8A program is under full audit because of middleman. 4,300 companies have to submit financial reports before the new year, a complete audit because of middleman. So I don't care what people say. They can say what they want to say. A lot of them have never got caught. So this is why they've been preaching, because they're like, oh, I did it. It's no different to me than PPP loans and idle loans. It ain't FAFO until it is. They might take a long time to catch you, but eventually they catch you. So how you can do middleman legally, right, is if you're a subcontractor and you don't have the prime where you have to be obligated to the subcontractor rules of the FAR, then you could middleman the contract. Other than that, Jess, you want to meet the self-performance rules. It's not hard to meet the rules. I don't even know why people don't want to do this. It's technically not hard to meet the rules. So literally, if you want a contract for $100,000, we'll say even, and you got to do 50% of the work, Well, you do 50% of the work. If you hire, let's say it's a landscape contract, and we have students that do this now. All you have to do, Jess, is hire some of their employees, put them on your payroll to where you're not contracting out more than 50% of the work or 49% of the work to the sub. You're going to put them on your payroll. They got to get paid anyways. So they're just going to be paid from you instead of being paid from the subcontractor. That makes you compliant. I don't know why we don't want to be compliant. You're still technically outsourcing the contract. You're just hiring their employees on payroll so that you're compliant with the subcontracting rules. You have to do a percentage of the work anyways. You got to manage a contract. You got to be responsible, right? So I don't understand why we don't want to do that when it's very straightforward process. If you hire a payroll company, these 4 employees come over to your staff. They become your employees for the life of the contract, and now you're compliant. Very easy to do. There's no reason to not do that. Okay, so again, not every contract has a subcontract rule, but a lot of the contracts, whether it's construction or services, they have a percentage of the work that you must self-perform. And so you have to do that percentage of the work. Otherwise, yes, no one necessarily is going to take you to jail tomorrow. You're not going to get penalized tomorrow. You could get away with it for a long time. But if you ever are audited and you're ever caught, you have just violated the law, and then you're subject to whatever penalties come with that. A lot of people have not lived long enough to be subjugated to these kind of penalties. However, it happens all the time. So I don't know why we don't want to just do the right thing. Like, I don't get it. But the way that when I did my contract and I did a middleman, I was the sub, not the prime. So I did not have the government contract with the government, meaning that I was not subjected to the laws that the government put in place for the main contract holder. As a sub, I was doing business with another business, not business with the government. Therefore, my rules applied to me with that business, not with the government. Hopefully that cleared that up. When working with tribes, can we work with different ones at the same time? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, tribes are like corporate companies. You can work with as many as you can. So they're like corporate companies. You can work with unlimited tribes. Let's see. Here's my NAICS code, 423430. All right, let's see what we got here. 423430. 423430. All right. I see 66 contacts. I don't see any value of contracts, but I do see 66 contacts with that NAICS code. So there's definitely people that do it. I don't see any dollars attached to it. That doesn't mean they don't exist. I just don't see any active dollars attached to that NAICS code. But I would, if I were you, I would reach out to the companies that have this NAICS codes. I mean, first of all, I would cross-reference some of the spend forecast research that I gave you guys. I would cross-reference that to see if there's any programs aligned with that information, right? And then I would talk to the companies about the programs that align with the information that I gave you guys in one of the 7 free handouts. That's what I would do. Will this video stay up? Yes, this video is going to stay up. No worries. Okay, 423340. Okay, I just put that NAICS code in, Alexandra, for you. Sylvia says, when we put employees on our payroll, do we get workers' comp for them? Yes, absolutely. Now, one of the things, Sylvia, and this is a good question for everybody listening. This is why if you hire a payroll company, I tell everybody, just hire a payroll company. Don't try to run your payroll trying to be cheap and save 2 nickels. If you hire a payroll company, not ADP, I hate ADP, so don't hire ADP. Don't hire any of the big names. Hire a payroll company. In fact, here, okay, I don't have my screen up. I could show this. So if you hire a payroll company, right, the payroll company will take care of all of that. They will take care of insurance. They will take care of payroll. They will take care of workman's comp. They will take care of everything. So only thing that you're going to do literally is they're going to say, for these 5 employees, again, if you pay them weekly, bi-weekly, what they used to do for me is, because I worked in construction, so my guys like physical checks. They didn't have bank accounts, so they didn't like direct deposit, none of that fancy stuff in construction. They like the physical checks. So every 2 weeks or every week, the payroll company would just mail me and send me all of a package like this. And it had all of my employees, their checks, their pay stubs, everything in an envelope with all the documents, right? They FedEx it to me. And then the guys come into the office and I hand them the checks. Boom, 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 one by one, right? They would send me a bill, let's say 25,000. I wire them 25 grand, and then they send me all the checks and all the checks. I didn't do any calculations. I didn't do any reports. I didn't do any of the taxes. I didn't have to worry about being compliant with the state and local regulations, plus none of that stuff with FICA, none of that unemployment, nothing. I did nothing except send them the money. They did everything. So when you hire a payroll company, people, it makes your life so much easier to do this, because you do not have to actually worry about being compliant with your local taxes, like Sylvia's in New Jersey's taxes, and then the people are working in another state, that state's taxes, that state's reporting. I did none of that. They did everything. So you just send them a check. That's it. All right. Yeah, Jess, I agree with you. People are just lazy. I mean, this is such an easy thing to be creative about, right? For folks out here. Really quick, I know a lot of people are just joining us now. Thank you guys for just joining us. What we're discussing is, again, the free handouts that we gave out, the 7 handouts. I went through the difference between being a prime contractor, prime versus tier 1 versus tier 2 contracts. A lot of folks out here are still don't realize that. And I'll go through this again because I see now we've got about 50 people on. So I'll be happy to go through kind of really quickly the differences between tier 1 versus tier 2. A lot of us, the tier 1 are the top people, the Boeings, the Lockheeds, the Raytheons, the SAICs, the Booz Allens, all those companies. Screw them. Work with the tier 2 companies that you don't know of. And so what I'm doing right now is, if you give me your NAICS code in the chat, I'm using the database that I created by basically cross-referencing 4 different platforms. And I'm using that database to show you how many companies that you've never heard of you could potentially subcontract with that want looking for relationships with small businesses. The big guys are like banks. They don't want you until you have money. So until you've got money and capacity, forget the tier 1 list. Okay. But I gave it to you because there are people like John Palmer who wants it. But for everybody else out here who's anywhere from $0 to $2 or $3 million, start with tier 2 list, get to know those people, start with the tribes. Okay. Get to know those people. And then that's where you start your journey. All right. So we're going through discussing that tonight. I'm using my database that I built using AI tools. I showed you how I built the database. I'll be happy to pull it back up if anybody's curious how to build it for themselves. It's a lot of work, but you can do it again. And then I'm running the code so you guys can see what opportunities exist out there for yourself and your company, right? So that's what I'm doing. All right, Khalil says 551114. Okay. All right, so going back to my database. And then, by the way, keep asking questions. 551114. Was that it? I'm missing a number. 11. Okay, I put 114. Okay. Boom. Ooh, Khalil. Only one person I found with that NAICS code. Loop Management Services. So Khalil, I don't know what you do, but I only found one company in that database with that. Can you give some recommendation for payroll companies? So, how do I say this? I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. There are companies now that what I would do is if I were going to do this strategy, and I didn't have any employees, right? The first thing that I would do was I would find out the company who I'm working with, which payroll company that they use, and I would use the same payroll company that they use. That would make it much easier for me when subcontracting with them to move employees between companies, because if we use the same payroll company, that would allow me the flexibility to move between, one employee to the next, right? Move them over from basically, all they're going to be doing is substituting your EIN for their EIN. So all their information would be in there already, and they would not have to resubmit any new information, if that makes sense. That's what I would do. If you have no one now and you're open, that's what I would do for a payroll company. That would be what I would recommend. Sylvia, I don't know Gusto. Let me see. What is Gusto? So Gusto, it says employee payroll software and solutions, right? So again, it looks like to me, they are doing your payroll like a software. You don't want a software. You want a company that handles and manages payroll. So let's do this. I'm going to do something different. By the way, anybody else? I'll before I switch screens, is there anybody else that get me anybody else next code? Someone said, I'll come back to you guys. I did Khalil. Okay, Alexander said, I'm a reseller of several products, a database mainly for checking for primes. I don't have to use subs. So Alexander, it's not for you checking for primes so that you have to use subs. It's so that you can be a sub to the primes. So the database is for you to bring your products and service to companies that buy your products and services. It's not for you to use subcontractors. It's for you to become a subcontractor to these companies that have the contracts. So let me go back and let me just kind of show you guys what I'm talking about for the new people that are just joining us. So Alexandra, when you look at this map here, all right, and you're looking at, I don't care what you sell to the government, people. I don't care what you sell. Products, service, it doesn't matter. This is all of the contracts. Contracts. Has nothing to do with the types of contract. This is the whole pie of contracts. All right. So out of all of the contracts, the way that the government buys, 50% is using task orders. All right. I'm going to show you another example. I'll pull up another sheet. Matter of fact, I'm going to take down the database so I can show you this other sheet. But this is all of the contracts. So what that means is, right here, this is our expiring contracts list, right? So under this expiring contracts list, you will see things like drugs, medicines. Here, let me make it a little bit bigger. All right. Okay. Those are all products. Manufactured homes, wired telecommunication, again, drugs, merchant. Those are products. You'll see on here a lot of DLA stuff, right? Homeland Security, Department of Defense. Let me scroll to the bottom real quick. There you go. You see all this DLA, aviation, right? Aircraft parts, small arms parts, accessories, equipment. So this is how they buy everything. This is how they buy everything. So there is no like services database or products database. This is a database of how they buy every single thing. So what I'm showing you here is the people already have the contracts to provide the services to the government. So if you're only looking on SAM, you're missing out on 75% of that pie chart where people are already basically have the contracts to provide these products. You can't even sell them without going through them because they have the vehicles in place for 5 years, 10 years. Here, I'll flip between screens. Okay. They've got the vehicles in place. Look here. This is some of this started date 2020. All right. Finish date 2025. So you could not have participated on this aircraft parts contract, right, for 4 years because this company under DLA military aircraft parts had the contract. So if you wanted to sell your products to this office, you had to go through them. So there is no other way. There's no other way. This is the way. So what happens is people come to me and say, Eric, I don't see my stuff on SAM.gov. No shit, Sherlock. It ain't there. It's in the bottom half in the top quarter. It ain't going to be there because it's already tied up with the companies on this other list. It's here. They got it. These companies, Infinity Fabrication, is providing all these aircraft and auxiliary parts since 2020 under this contract. So this company is providing rope, twine, cords, life-saving systems. They've been doing it since 2020. You can't get past them. So if you want to sell your stuff to that agency, they've already got a 5-year contract with this company. You got to go through them. This is what I'm trying to teach you guys. Okay. So this is the way that the government buys. This company, Hamilton Sunstrand Corporation, they got a Homeland Security contract with the Office of Aviation Logistics Center, okay, to provide aircraft parts. They had a $5 million contract since 2021 to 2025. You got to go through them to sell to that office. You can't sell to when you call the office, they're going to be like, sorry, we can't help you. Call them. You got to talk to Hamilton's corporation because we've got the contract with Hamilton, provide all of our airplane parts. This is how the government buys. This is why so many people are stuck because, again, we're only taught to look at SAM. So you're missing out on the rest of the pie, which is why the boot camp focus on the 75%, not the 5%. Does that make sense to everybody out here? Capiche? So when the database that I created is of the suppliers who have the contracts that you want to go in through to sell it back into these agencies. Because when you call the agency, they're going to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. We've already signed a contract with these people to provide this work. We can't give it out any other way. This is how the government buys. So hopefully today, when you guys leave, you'll understand this is how they buy. Period. So I'm not saying you have to go through these people. You don't have to. You could focus on SAM. That's where I started. You could focus on that slither at the top of SAM.gov and then wonder why you can't build a business, a solid business, a sustainable business, because you're like, well, there's not enough stuff coming on SAM.gov to make me have a stay in business. Duh. Eric taught you that. So please, everybody who's watching this, go back and educate your friends, educate the other gurus that, hey, I just learned something tonight. No wonder there's not enough opportunities or bids coming out under my space because I'm only looking at SAM.gov when I just showed you a list here This is December expiring contracts list, which, by the way, I gave it to you all for free. Okay. You could see here, I'll zoom back in. This is over 700, 800 contracts that expire in the month of December alone. December. This is all December. These are all the agencies. So if you were to call Department of Veterans Affairs, right? Somebody put in here this their NAICS code. If you were to call this Air Force Logistics Command Center, Raytheon's got the contract for airplane parts, $3 billion contract from 7/21 to 12/25. If you want to sell your parts, you got to go through Raytheon. They're gonna be like, look, we can't help you. Ain't no point in calling me. Raytheon, they got this thing locked up until 2025. You're wasting your time for calling the small business office when Raytheon has the contract. This is what I'm showing folks. All right. So does that make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Make sense, everybody? Yes? All right. All right. Okay. Almighty Max says, I sent 7 emails to tribal companies. Hopefully I'll hear back. Michelle, Gardner, Ice, what's going on? By the way, your NAICS code looks like it's missing a number. It's 54611. It looks like you're missing 1 digit. Okay, Andre, 33591. All right, let me go back. All right. I've since removed my other stuff off of this list. Hold on. Okay, Andre Barrett, let me. Oh, Michelle, listen, girl, you know me out here. I just be trying to help the people, man. You know, you already know what your boy do. Hey, I'm always out here. I'm a man of the people. Let me pull up this tab for you guys. All right. And the next code that somebody sent was 33591. By the way, Almighty Mac, if you send out 7 emails to tribal companies, let's talk about that. Don't just send emails. Call them. Please, don't just send cold emails. Call them. That is such a, that's like trying to talk to a girl through Snapchat. 33591. All right, 33591. I see 16 results, 8 contacts, 8 emails. General Atomics, Intersys Products, Showa, Eagle Pictures, Triton, Exide, Teledyne, Acme, Articom, Flatwater, Gold Belt. All right, so yeah, I've got some people on that list for you, Mr. Andre Barrett. Yeah, Almighty, don't be just look. Don't be so distant. You know, like everyone just send out emails, right? You just get a cold email from somebody. If I were you and you see some tribes, right? Now that you have the tribes, let's talk about that. Someone said hit the like button. Yes, make sure to hit the like button. Okay. If I gave you this tribal list, you have people on the tribes. Okay, now find out, I think it was Tavin just said. Okay, find out where they're going to be, what shows they're attending, right? So that you can talk to them, meet them. Don't just send a cold email. Hey, I'm looking for opportunities as a subcontractor. That is so cold, right? I would call them and I would, again, know what you want, know where you're working at, know the area that they're working at, right? I gave you the list, so now you could do a little bit more research to find out, again, what products are they working on? right? Where are the projects they're working on? If you missed last night's live session, go back and watch last night's live session. I showed you guys how to use the other the documents that I gave you. Hold on one second. Okay, go back and watch the session on the free buyer's guides. Michelle, look what I gave these people. I said, you watch it now. So for everyone out, yesterday's live session, I gave you action plan that we created, which is where do you start, step by step, what you should be doing next. All right. I gave you last night, Federal Contracting Library, 75 plus AI prompts that you can use. AI past performance prompts. Okay. AI capture planning prompts, technical proposal review prompts, capability statement prompts, debrief and lessons prompts. I gave you this, by the way, all for free, Michelle. I gave these people this all for free. All they got to do is sign up on our bootcamp email. I gave you this Almighty Mac last night, the December spend forecast, $138 billion. What agencies? Again, I showed you guys. Michelle, let me show you something. Now I got somebody here watching. I showed, in case you guys didn't see this. All right, Michelle, what I did. All right, Almighty Mac. Okay. All right, so this is what I use to create these lists. This is I use Cursor, which is a coding platform that allows me to have a different terminal windows and pull from different AI agents. I built crawlers, scrapers. I didn't build them specifically to pull from 3 to 4 different databases to generate all this information for everybody here. Right? So now, Almighty Mac, you've got this list here, which is all the contracts that has, I scraped the National Defense Authorization Act, 3,000 pages to give you essentially all of the unspent dollars that were obligated because when we had the shutdown, they couldn't spend the money. So they were obligated under the National Defense Authorization Act, but it was unspent. I gave you the agencies, the amount of money the NAICS codes are looking at. Okay, so you've got Air Force R&D, DLA, Missile Defense, Cyber Command, Navy Shipbuilding, Army Procurement, Department of Energy, Atomic Energy Defense, Space Force. I gave you that list. Then I gave you guys this list, which complements the one I gave you before, which is the actual contracts that these things come from. So here you'll see DoD Cyber Command, Army Ground Vehicle System. Okay, so you have that list. So Almighty Mac, you've got information to talk to people about. So no one should be sending out cold emails right now, is my point. No one should be sending out cold emails. So I'm saying that because it doesn't make sense to me where anyone would be sending out a cold email. Sorry. I can't go for it. So I've given you enough information. I've armed you with information that if you just take a little bit more time, right? A little bit more time to go through some of this information, you have something to talk about. Okay? Read it. You didn't have to go research it. The hell, at least you could do is read the stuff. See if there's anything on there that makes sense. All right. So Michelle says, Eric, you're dropping gold. People would say that they want to sell X and you got to go through the IDIQ and MATOC, understand the market buys. When they buy, who are your capability, capacity, and the market key? Exactly. Correct. All right. What's up, Alan White? So it makes sense now, everybody? Does this make sense? I know we got to hear it a couple times for it to kind of like trickle in for everybody. Is it making sense? Wes, does it make sense? What's going on, Alan White? Yeah, call them. They're just people. Communicate with them. Alexander says, okay, it makes sense why they want to buy from my company then if they want a contract. So Alexandra, again, don't sell yourself short, right? You realize that, and I tell people this all the time, we somehow do not believe that our country's ran on the back of small businesses, Alexandra. By you saying that statement, why would they want to buy from me when they could probably do it themselves? If that's the case, then why don't all the big companies just do everything in the world and we just sit back and do nothing? That's not how the world works. Every company cannot make everything. That's just impossible. Even Elon Musk, who's worth $600 billion, SpaceX has to source from suppliers to buy goods and services for their rockets. They got to buy nuts and bolts from suppliers that make this stuff. They got to buy tires. They got to buy logistics. Every company in America has to be, there's something called the supply chain where we're all dependent upon each other. Everyone cannot have every part of the supply chain covered. It's impossible. Microsoft cannot literally have, yes, they may make computers, they may make software, but someone else has to make the screen, the mouse, the cords, the cables, the plugs, the microphone. So it's impossible for anyone to be one single source of everything. What companies do is when you get these long-term contracts, they qualify for them. They're not saying that we have all this stuff. The way that long-term contracts work is you pre-qualify saying, hey, I can source this for the government. Not necessarily I'm going to provide it. I can go source it. Well, a company like Raytheon, who's got 15,000 employees, you don't think there's people in there that are lazy that also are like, okay, well, who can we source this from? And they're like, okay, I don't know. Well, Alexandra, you show up and like, well, I provide these level of products. Great, Alexandra. Okay, can you help us source those products? Good. Now we can go focus on something that makes us more money. We don't realize that a lot of times the gap between small business efficiency and what it costs us to do something versus a large business is 2 to 3x. So getting you to source something, it could potentially save them money, even if it was for the same product, because that higher up person, the amount of money it would take when they're paying somebody with their wrap rates, if they're paying somebody $200,000 a year, right? Plus with all their bonuses and everything, $600,000 in compensation to go and source a $50,000 lot of products, Alexandra, it's cheaper to let you make 50 grand and source it than to pay this guy who's making a $600,000 salary to source it. Plus, there's also things like regulations and goals and things like that. But I mean, literally, I was on a plane with a guy that used to work at a factory where they made chips, and his company cleaned the chip machines. And I said, well, why does your company clean the chip machines? Why doesn't the company that makes the chips clean the machines? They said, because it's not profitable for the company to clean their own machines. So they outsource somebody else to clean it so it doesn't cut into their profitability, because there's so much profit with the people they have and making the chips that it's not worth their time to clean the machines. It's the same thing like us. We can all wash our dishes, go get our own food. We could drive ourselves. We have cars, but we choose to outsource the driving, the grocery shopping. We outsource that to other people because it's more convenient. A lot of times it might be cheaper. Like I Uber into town because when I do my math, I'm like, yes, I have a car, but the gas, the parking, all that stuff, I would rather just Uber there. I don't have to pay for gas on the. So there's a lot of factors that you're not counting that you can't see because you're only thinking about yourself as being small and not the actual being of value. That is being small and nimble is of tremendous value. One of our students, he sources products for Boeing that they don't have time to research and find because they're obsolete. And so his niche is working on obsolete products. So he has to literally fly across the country, find a supplier that can manufacture this product for them. He goes through that process of getting it done, and then Boeing buys it from him. If Boeing had to pay their engineers and staff to go do that, it would not be affordable to the government as a customer because it would be exorbitant, the amount of fees they'd have to charge to recover their costs and expenses to do it. So it's cheaper to hire a small business that will do it for even 100 or 200,000 because it would cost them $500,000 to do the same work. All right. Michelle says 541-611. Again, if you didn't get the email, I didn't make the emails. I don't control when they come. They're not instantaneous. I don't know. I just set it all up. But because we've already sent out 700 emails, I know they're working. So if you don't get it in 5 seconds, it's not my fault, right? It's going through an information that captures it, sends it to another information, and then it sends it out. So check your spam, check your junk. I promise you the emails work. You've got my number here. You've got my email here as well. So again, all of our information is here for everybody to have that they need to contact us. All right. So I just want to say that. All right. There you go. Your company may find a better product. You may save money. Might become a clean machines for them. No, listen, this guy was flying first class and he was the CEO of the company. And the company they were doing, he told me they did about, I think it was $600-700 million a year cleaning the machines. And literally their offices, buildings were right next to the buildings of the people that made the chips. So he's like, they just like go next door, get the machines, take them to their facility and clean them and then bring them back. And they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars of that. But they're low margin compared to the chip manufacturers. So the chip margin business, remember, you got stocks and shareholders and prices. So the chip manufacturers' margins were like 80-90%. The cleaning company's margins were 10 or 15%. But I'll take 10 to 15% on a $500-600 million all day long. Paulo says just got an unauthorized user for the replay and now just waiting for the list. Okay, so you got the information, which is good. I'm not sure about the unauthorized user. Does anybody else try to click the replays from the list to see what they got? All right, cool beans. Michelle, let me do yours, pull up your information, and then I'm gonna close out because I've been here already too long for tonight. All right. 541-611. All right. I'm going to take this off the screen. I'm going to pull back on this other list. I'm going to do Michelle Gardner's, and we're going to close out. All right. Her NAICS code is 541-611. 541-611. And woo! And my database, 476 companies. That must be a very, but I'm going to say something else, Michelle. Hold on. I'm going to pull down a different list. So since that is such a common code, Michelle, let me pull down a different list for you. So Michelle, what I did for all the people here was I actually separated the list. So let me show you this one. So what I did, Michelle, since your information is so, thanks, Sylvia. You just checked your spam. It was there. I know it's working. All right. So Michelle, since your NAICS code was so big, what I would do, I would look at the tier 2 contractors because they're the ones likely to give you a chance, higher response rate, 30 to 40% versus 2%, 3 to 6 months in terms of time of contract versus 12 to 18 months. I would start there, and then let's search this list. Let's search here. And I'm going to search. What was your code again? $541,611. All right, let me check your code. 541,611. All right, so Michelle Gardner, have you ever heard of Atkins North America, Audrey Mack? I would reach out to her. On my tier 2 list, Burns Engineering, Tamara Nicholson, she's on that list. Kim Hill is still a big company. I would skip Kim Hill. Let's see. Okay, I would reach out to David Evans and Associate, Mr. Ted Williams. All right, I reach out to Loretta Morris from Dell and Hampton Associates Charter. I reach out to her. So I encourage you to start with the tier 2 list because you deal with regular people. Gannett and Fleming Inc., Kate Barrington. I would reach out to Kate. Hal Crow, Andrew. I reach out to Hal Crow. HNTB. I reach out to Vincent Gallagher. Michael Gray from ICF Inc. Again, what I'm showing you guys are these are people that you've never heard of before. That's why this is called the tier 2 list. Veronica Tan, I reach out to her. Bruce Stephen from PMA Consultants, I reach out to Bruce. All right, Shaw Environmental Infrastructure. Margarita, I reach out to Margarita. I reach out to James from the Lewis Burger Company. All right, Bernard from Urban Engineers, I reach out to him. Lisa Dewis from the URS Group, I reach out to her. So again, that's where I would start. That's where I would start. All right. So that's where I would start my search with those lists. But hey, if you just popped up, you got to go back out and watch it all over again. So, all right, I'm going to bed. I've been here for an hour and some change. So thanks, guys. If you have any questions, call us, email us. You know how to reach us. Good night. All right.